Well, what can I say? I'm not a doctor. And I'm going to share something with you guys that I think personally is something that I find very interesting. And if you have any thoughts or comments that you would like to speak on, obviously, that'd be great to hear. Um, so this is one of those things that it's been, on my mind. It's been kind of, you know, it's something that I've been thinking about a lot because, I find it very, interesting. So we all know about, and I know we haven't heard much about it now because I want to say and think that most of the scare of this sickness that kind of like ruled the world a little bit. If you all know what I'm talking about, it's called, COVID-19. And I remember, hearing about it and stuff, and a lot of people, I remember hearing the conspiracy theories that it's fake, it's a lot of, BS and blah, 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 and I understand. And of course, I was just like you. I always thought that, why, this is a big deal, this is fake, all this is, stupid, why do I gotta wear this stupid, face mask, why do I gotta get this, this stupid vaccine so that I don't have to wear this face mask and blah, 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 and I understand, and, when it's really, and at first, just like many others, I thought it was really dumb, but I, myself, have experienced something very interesting. I remember in the very kind of like beginning / mid time through when this virus, COVID-19, was going through, I remember I had to bring my mom out to this ENT doctor, ear, nose, and throat doctor. And my mom asked this doctor, hey, what are your thoughts on this virus going around, this COVID-19, anything that maybe we should be concerned about or anything like that. And he goes, the biggest effect that this virus would have on people are people that are overweight and or that smoke a lot of cigarettes. And I'm like, well, I'm in good health then. Perfect, right? I didn't know. So, I remember hearing that, and I'm like, okay, good. But it didn't really click right away, right? I have members in my family that are, well, they are of size. And to put it more clearly, they are fat. and I remember hearing, I remember when I was hearing this, I remember when I heard about, if you're overweight and or when you smoke cigarettes, it didn't really click right away that, I have family that are huge. And I have experienced, and like I said before, I was one of the many of the people that never thought that this whole thing was fake. So, the government has something to do with it and stuff like that. And then I remember of December of the year 2021 on Christmas Day, my grandmother passed away due to cancer. She had breast cancer, and then the cancer moved to her bones, and then from there, the rest was history. And then after a couple weeks after that, of us as a family going through the emotions and stuff like that, I remember my mom was texting me one day. She goes, "Oh, Mike," she goes, "I need to tell you something." And I'm like, "What?" She goes, "Your uncle caught COVID." Now, at this point, I caught COVID. My mom caught COVID. my dad caught COVID, my brother caught COVID. We all caught COVID, me and my family. But we all got vaccinated. And I'm like, well, okay. I'm like, my uncle, who was huge, he was a construction worker. He was huge. His hands were the size of my face, right? And I'm like, well, okay. The guy is ruthless, and the guy, nothing can stop him. I mean, the dude literally, when he was in his prime of doing construction work, because that's what he did, he could literally walk on top of houses on 2x4s and balance and hold like two pieces of wood, one piece of wood in his hand over here and balance. And, he was just this huge monster, and he was super strong and really smart, which obviously, in a joke, it doesn't mix well, And when I heard he caught COVID, me and my family thought, well, he's just going to kick it, get up in the hospital, get up out of the stretcher in the hospital and walk out and be healthy because he's going to get over it. But that really wasn't the case. Slowly over time, after this was going on, I was starting to hear that things were starting to get worse and worse and worse, and things were just not going good. And then I heard at one point that he got, I think, like sedated, I think the phrase is, like he kind of got put to sleep. And I remember the imagery of just going to the hospital and all of us, his kids, his siblings, all out of the hospital because I guess honestly they had a quarantine or whatever. And I remember my cousins, had to make a difficult decision that, to take him off comfort care, so that he can pass away. And then, of course, we had, so after that death in the family, and then we had that other death in the family, was just like, that wound that we had from my grandmother, it was starting to heal, but then eventually it just came back open because of that. And I kept in my back of my mind that what the doctor told me, what the ENT said, if you're overweight and or smoking cigarettes and you catch COVID, you got a big concern. And that hit the mark. That kind of stuck in my head. I'm like, whoa. That's starting to that's making sense. My uncle, he was overweight. and he caught COVID. And now look what happened to him. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And then fast forward, I got it again. Oh, jeez. Just in case you're aware, as we're recording this, it's the night of me after work, and I'm just tired. I then remember a year later, after my grandmother passing, or a year and 3 months, a year and 3 months, my grandfather, he was, this one I can kind of like, I guess in a way, you can kind of like, yes and no in a pass with this one. My grandfather, when this happened to him, he was 80 years old. And I remember hearing about my grandfather getting COVID. But yet at the same time, though, he, like I said, he was 80 years old. He had issues with his heart and stuff. And also, he was also dealing with the hardship of him losing my grandmother, because he loved my grandmother super, super dearly. And that was a very, oh my gosh, a very interesting time. Because, he he had just a lot going on. The passing of my grandmother, he caught COVID and stuff, and like my poor dad, my dad tried everything to keep my grandfather happy and try to like invite him over to get him out of his house because he lived there alone, and my grandmother wasn't around anymore. And when he caught COVID, I even tried when I went to go visit him. I go, "Hey, how's it going, Papa?" We called him Papa. I go, "Hey, Papa, I'm coming to see you. How you're feeling? How are you feeling?" And of course, he would send me this very, I don't know if he would say it was depressing or negative response. He goes, "Oh, I'm weak." I'm like, "Well, okay, but like mentality-wise, like, how are you doing?" And so I eventually just went over there to see him. How are you doing? I remember seeing him like in the stretcher, with the tubing and stuff. And he just wasn't looking good. And I remember like after visiting him and stuff, and I went home and I told my parents, I'm like, I don't know about this. Like this is something I don't know. The way he's looking, the way his attitude is and stuff, and the way his mentality is, I don't know. I'm concerned. He, it's I don't know. I go, I'll be honest with you. I had no hopes for this. I'm like, we can pray, we can do whatever the hell that we got to do to make sure that he heals and he can get up and out of the hospital and back to his life. But I don't know, just the mentality about my grandmother not being around and stuff is just not helping with the situation at all. And then I remember this day that I remember going to work. I worked second shift at the time, that my dad ended up getting a phone call from the hospital. He goes, "Hey," he goes, "are you such and such's son?" And my dad goes like, "Yeah." He goes, Your dad had a very bad coughing attack, and he punctured like a heart valve or heart artery, and his heart stopped, and we brought him to the ICU. And my dad's like, "What?" He goes, "Are you sure you contacted the right person here?" Like, And so my dad eventually was like, "We need to get up and get going." And I'm like, "Well, should I go to work? Dad, what should I do?" He goes, "Mike, just go to work for now." And I told my dad, I'm like, "Dad, text me, like, if if the situation is very, like you really need my presence there, just to be there, let me know." And I remember like not even being like not even like 2 hours, maybe an hour and a half into work, my dad's like, "I need you here." And I'm like, "All right." And I remember going there and seeing my grandfather, being all yet again the same situation. He's got breathing tubes. He's got the thing up his nose. He's laying there. He's kind of laying there like this and stuff like that. And my dad had to make the tough call to pull him off comfort care around around my dad's other siblings. It was my dad and his 3 sisters, with his side of his family. And, obviously he ended up passing away. And like I said before, one thing that I noticed with this is that I know my grandfather was old. My grandfather had, a little bit of a mentality issue because my grandmother passed away and he really loved her a lot. But yet at the same time now, I noticed my grandfather was a little overweight, Yikes. And then something I have noticed, my dad, I am super happy that he is alive. I'm super happy that he is here. Both my uncle and my grandfather did not get the vaccine, the COVID-19 vaccine, right? But yet my dad is pretty much that same situation. My dad is huge. Funny enough, I make the joke to myself, my dad has a diet of a junior higher. Drinks a lot of soda, eats a lot of junk food. He's not in the greatest shape. My dad even went to the hospital to get a surgery so that he can lose some weight. But then I remember my dad hearing and being told that you can gain that weight back, and he did. And it wasn't too difficult for him. And my dad got the vaccine, the COVID-19 vaccine. And he caught COVID. And he beat it. And I'm like, 3 people in my life who are overweight and are huge, who are fat, 2 out of the 3 of them did not get the vaccine, and COVID got them. But then my dad, who got COVID, who got the vaccine, who got the booster too, I think I got the booster myself, I believe, if I can remember correctly, he beat COVID. And I'm like, And I'm sitting here sharing this, and I'm not sharing this to make anyone upset. And I'm not sharing this not to hurt anyone in my family's feelings, or why would you think like this. It's just something I noticed. And I don't know if still getting the COVID-19 vaccine is still a controversial topic. I know we're kind of long gone past COVID-19 and the hype and the rush and the scare that it had, but it's just something I rarely noticed. You know, it's weird. It's something that I experienced. Now, for some of you who experience COVID-19, your experience might be totally different. And I remember for the very first time when I heard this, I was like, okay, so it's your typical boomer doomer. It's going to clear out probably more than the majority of a nursing home and make more room for the upcoming, elderly people in the nursing homes. But no, that was not the case at all. And it was something interesting to me. And I've been holding on to this thought, and I don't know how to share it, so I'm going to share it here. And if you're any of my family who discover this, if I hurt your feelings, I'm sorry, but this has been on my heart. And yeah, sorry. This has been on my heart. If this upsets you, this has been on my heart, and I wanted to get it out there. And you know what? I remember the night of my grandfather, we had a pastor that came to the hospital to meet him and prayed for him that he would beat this. Guess what? That didn't happen. And I understand. If you believe in God, you know what? God answers prayers, and God allows things to happen a certain way. And if that's the way that he wanted it to happen, then that's the way that he wanted it to happen. So that is overall my thought. That is one of the many things that I feel like is a controversial thought and feeling. It's been on my heart. It's been on my mind. And you know what? I'm happy. I got it stinking out. And I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry if I upset you. If you're any of my family, I don't care, immediate to extended, to obviously to soon come to be, my brother's fiance, if you end up seeing this. But yeah, that is something that I wanted to share and get out there. And dear stinking God, do I feel good sharing this. Oh my Lord. And you know what? If it goes up, if you're some random person that doesn't know me well, then you know what? It is a freaking pleasure to meet you. Okay. See ya.